There is something about building your net worth to $25,000 that changes how you move. Let's ground this number for a second. For purposes of this video, let's assume that if you have $25,000 of net worth, that it is liquid, meaning it's easily accessible if you needed it. In the United States, the average monthly expenses for a single person are roughly $3,000 to $4,000. Obviously, it can be lower or higher depending on where you live. For families, the average monthly expenses, according to NerdWallet, is actually closer to $6,500. If you take those numbers, and we acknowledge that these are just averages, they're not representative of every single person, even with that, it still paints us a picture as to what $25,000 of net worth actually means for you. For a single person, that could be about 6 to 8 months worth of expenses. For most people, that is a fully funded emergency fund. If you have a family, that amount might cover closer to 3 to 5 months worth of expenses. So a little less, but still very sizable and considerable. So when I say $25,000, it changes how you move. What I'm actually really saying is you feel different when you have multiple months of life already paid for. If something were to happen, you lost your income, you'd be okay. It would still be stressful, but you'd be okay. And what's key is you'd be okay for more than just a month. You would have a runway. And I personally think that is a major milestone in your financial journey. Now, if you're not in the United States, don't focus on the number. $25,000 is less important. Focus on this instead. How much money would cover me for 4 to 6 months of living? Calculate that, and that becomes your equivalent of $25,000 here in the US. Now, I want to be clear. When you have 4 to 6 months of expenses saved up, let's say you even have a fully funded emergency fund, you're not technically rich. I still believe this counts as being rich, but technically, you're probably not going to retire off of that. You probably can't quit your job on a whim. You probably still need the income. And you probably can't just disappear and take a 2-year sabbatical traveling the world. But what you can do is you can operate differently. And today I want to explain why exactly that is. If you're new here, real quick, my name is Lissa. I'm a certified financial planner and a personal finance expert. My goal is to help more women build wealth and build an abundant mindset. So if that is your vibe, make sure you subscribe. To start with, let's talk about the shift of getting outside of survival mode. If you guys have checked out my other video about why everything changes when you have $10,000, you'll know that when you start to save your initial emergency fund, you actually move into a place of more financial stability. But the thing is, even if your finances are starting to get organized, you're starting to build a savings, you're starting to build up your net worth, even though all of that good stuff is happening, there's usually a lag with how you feel. I've seen this with tons of clients. Their finances start to look a lot better, but they still feel stressed and they still feel anxiety. So even if they have the finances to support getting out of survival mode, it usually takes a longer transition to feel like they're no longer in survival mode. And that's where I think this $25,000 or around 4 to 6 months worth of expenses has a big impact. What you have now is time. So the question I ask you is, if you were to lose your main source of income, how much time would be ideal for you to bounce back, find a new job, make adjustments to your lifestyle expenses if needed, so that you can feel like you're on good financial ground again? Oftentimes, I actually get answers that are like a few months, 3 months, 4 months. If I just had that much time to think without having to worry about money, I could get my next job. And that's where I'm like, well, look, let's do the numbers, do some calculations. It looks like you can cover 6 months of living expenses with what you currently have. Just saying that out loud gives people a little bit more peace of mind. Once you're out of survival mode, financially, mentally, and emotionally, and you feel more stable, you can actually breathe a little bit. An unexpected car repair might be annoying to you, but it's not going to be catastrophic. Surprise expenses typically aren't going to break you anymore. So that's why I think the difference between a few thousand or even 10,000 and 25,000 is the difference between being and feeling in survival mode to finally feeling like you have some stability. Here's another area where things start to shift. When your net worth crosses this level, your energy changes. And that's because now you have options. I call this financial optionality. You negotiate differently. You can say no differently. You can say yes differently. You can leave a bad situation differently. At this point in your financial journey, you're no longer desperate. You're typically not at someone else's mercy. One way to think about how it feels is it's like if you were walking into a job interview when you already have another offer in hand. You walk in differently because you feel confident. Instead of begging and hoping that this job or company chooses you, you're the one walking in, evaluating if you even want to be there because you already got something else. And that's kind of the same with money. When you actually have a solid foundation, a solid cushion, emergency fund, you have months and months of expenses already covered, you can leave a toxic living situation or a toxic work situation. You have options. And even if you don't have full financial freedom just yet, you feel a sense of freedom just knowing that. The reason you have this financial optionality is because now the money that you've built, the net worth that you've built, it actually gives you leverage. And that leverage gives you financial power. Now, having leverage isn't even the most interesting part about building your net worth to $25,000. If you think about it, before this point, it often feels like you are doing all the work. You're saving, you're budgeting, you've probably even started investing. Since you probably already started investing, it means your money is probably already growing while you sleep. What happens at this level is you building wealth isn't just purely based on your effort of earning money from your job and then saving a little bit and putting it away. Now you have your stash, your emergency fund put away, and now you can redirect your earnings and put those dollars to work so that they can eventually compound and grow over time. This point of your financial journey is when you start to see more acceleration with the wealth building. It is that graph that we love oh so much talking about in finance, where it is very, very slow at first until finally it's not slow, it goes up. Now here's something I don't see talked about often enough. A big shift that happens, I alluded to it earlier, is the absence of panic. When you get out of survival mode and move into more financial stability, you have less stress, you have less anxiety, but you also tend to panic a lot less. And that's simply because that financial optionality, that financial power you have, that gives you a sense of confidence. That financial power makes it so that if something comes your way, like we said, maybe it's annoying, maybe it's frustrating, but it's not gonna totally wipe your finances and set you back to ground zero. I want to acknowledge those of you who didn't come from a lot of money, much like myself. It's a brand new feeling to be here. Sometimes it doesn't seem real. It sometimes feels uncomfortable to feel like you're actually okay with money and that you no longer have to stress. But I would urge you to step into it. Own it. You have gotten this far. You should actually feel good about it, because what's the point of continuing to make smart decisions with your money, to continue building your wealth, and to still feel stressed? At some point, you're going to have to do the work to feel good about it. I actually remember there was a time a few years back when my best friend and I were driving around. We were looking for parking in LA. I think we were in Hollywood. For those who've never been here, usually it's like metered parking or you can park in a parking lot. Sometimes you can find a residential area to park for free. We had circled the block for like 15-20 minutes trying to find a free or cheap spot because we wanted to avoid paying $20 for parking in the parking structure. But as we were driving, it all of a sudden dawned on us. We were like, we have money. Why don't we just pay for the damn parking? Like, especially if we split it between the two of us, $10 each is not that big of a deal at that point. And that was a realization for both of us that sometimes paying for convenience, paying for comfort, paying for your time outweighs saving money. But if you've always operated in survival mode and you've always had to count every single penny and every single dollar, sometimes it's hard to justify spending on things that don't feel like it has value. So having less panic or no panic when it comes to money, it is a game changer. It is definitely a chapter in life I think you should celebrate. Once you get to this point and you notice it, please do acknowledge it and be mindful about it, because then it will make you appreciate your financial situation so much more, and you'll feel so much prouder of all the work you're doing to improve your finances. The last thing I want to touch on in regards to hitting this $25,000 milestone, and that is it changes how you see yourself. If you didn't have it before, at 5K, 10K, whatever, if you didn't have it before, I hope you have proof now that you are capable and that anything is possible. You have solid evidence that you are capable of saving money consistently. You're capable of building wealth. You're capable of sustaining it longer than a day, longer than a month. You've proved to yourself that it's not just this money that can disappear in an instant. And when you have all this and you truly understand it and believe it, that's when your identity starts to shift. You don't feel like someone who's just trying to survive anymore, who's just trying to get by, who's always broke. You shift identities into someone who is actually building wealth, who is confident with money, who makes smart, empowered financial decisions, who maybe sometimes makes not so great decisions, but is okay with it because they know how to bounce back. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, once you have $25,000 of net worth, once you have an emergency fund, a runway that will get you by through any unexpected setback, this is great, but unfortunately, it isn't this job, I'm out of here kind of rich. I mean, by all means do you if that's what you want to do, but I would just stick it out a little longer. But what I hope I've shown you in this video is this amount gives you power. You now have breathing room. You now have leverage. You now have momentum. You're accelerating your wealth building. And you now have less panic, less stress, less anxiety with money. I hope all of that makes you feel good about your finances and the journey you're on. It's not easy to make these day-to-day decisions that are contributing to your longer-term financial goals, especially with the economy being the way that it is. So I'm curious, do you feel good about where you're currently at? Let me know in the comments. If you have hit 25K net worth, drop me a 25K in the comments. I would love to see how many of you have built that amount and are continuing to build your net worth. I hope this was helpful. Until next time, peace out.